Good afternoon. Welcome back, everybody. I want to go over a recap of Friday's trade and also go over the pre-market plan for this upcoming week on Monday. And it's all pretty much the same stuff that I do every week. I want to start out with GBPUSD, which is an incoming trade that I'm really excited for. And it all starts with, again, when we have these really big pivot sell-offs, just like this. These become short traps, and you have to look for a pull, and they always look pretty similar. You have an aggressive drop, and we have usually like a double or a triple test of an area where it starts to move away slowly from that area. These are generally Tokyo sessions where they start to follow through a little bit, and then you get a massive correction on London, and then it takes off. And this is pretty much like my bread and butter. So GBPUSD moving into this following week, we have a massive sell-off, right? And there are a couple generation points. We have the highs, we have the initial sell-off point, right? So a retest here would be a target. So this is an area where I would think we would run into a lot of resistance. Secondly, structure, aggressive sell-off. This is a button, right? That's what I call them, little button hooks, just tanks out of it, right? And then we have our final drop. When I see these drops like this, 9 times out of 10, if I'm long here, I'm anticipating that we're going to break this and turn into an uptrend. It doesn't always work out that way. Here it's continued to kind of channel down, but it's held this area repeatedly, and then we got an aggressive jump, and it was New York Open, 08:30 a.m. EST. So pre-market open New York, you get these like 800 pip 1 minute candles. And on these corrections, you see it came down to recorrected probably around 10:30, right? Held at 10:30 around 11ish. Started to dump back down again, noon, right? And so we're holding this area. So come Monday, because we're in this critical area right here, we've pulled back down into old structure. I'm anticipating we're going to hold this. So we'll see what happens next week. But targets for this week is a recalibration and move back up to this primary pivot, at which point we'll probably simmer out, have another pullback, and at some point in the middle of the week or at the end of week next week, we'll probably make an attempt here as well. So we might be able to get this in one session, but provided you have a good entry, this is a 7-to-1 trade, 7.5-to-1 trade. Okay, now moving into GBPJPY, very similar thing happening here, right? 15-minute aggressive push up. Actually, well, if we look at this, we have an aggressive sell-off, all right, and it's channeling back up. So this is the target right here. Right, again, 0.1, 0.2, 0.3, close on 0.1, on 0.2. We have a generation breakout that gets dropped through. So generation 0.1, aggressive bullish breakout, comes back immediately and breaks the low of that. Now we look for a bottom, and then we enter, and our target is here. And this happens over and over and over again. So here we have a 3-point test, 1, 2, 3, right, and an aggressive V. This marks the potential bottom. So in a situation like this, you could buy, right, and do something like this, targeting the highs, right? And once it breaks that, it will pull back and then continue into an uptrend. So as we're pushing, it still has not mitigated this tip, right? It's come up into the bottom of the order block right here and tapped it and rejected it. So it still needs to attempt one more time. We've broken out of the channel, and now we're moved into a kind of structure that I like to trade. And these are my 2 points I'm looking at. Let's do it on the 5-minute. Where are you? Okay, aggressive V correction, all right. So these things tend to retest right here and potentially right here and hold those areas and continue, right? So this candle on that V It's just something I've noticed over and over and over again, that it'll get retested and usually hold it and push. So let's mark out the bottom of this. Right, so it ripped through and it actually tested the bottom. That's fine, but it did confirm, right? It held, and it's taking off, and now it's starting to break down. And if this breaks down and comes back down into those structure points, which I've marked out with these boxes, this is structure point 1, structure point 2, and structure point 3. If it comes into these areas, I'm going to look for a trade, right, for a mitigation of this high. So I'm going to look for it to come in and test that high. And I will be looking to get in with a very tight entry and move my stop up quick. EURUSD, similar situation. Okay, so we have, let's look at the 15-minute. Again, aggressive sell-off. It's been going on for a while, but here we have the dump, right? It did not, in fact, this ended up being a flag and it fell through it. Okay, they don't always come back up to mitigate this high, but it came down, 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 and then we get market manipulation. And this is probably 0.830, just about. New York does this all the time. So it marks a low, it pulls back, and now it's pushing. So we have this aggressive sell trap here marked out in this area. So on a retest of this area, I'm going to be looking for long positions, and it just so happens we are exactly 100 points away from that. So I'm hoping between Sydney and Tokyo session open, I get an aggressive sell-off that I can jump in for a long position. And our first target is going to be a retest of this structure where we struggled 4 times, and then I want to look for a full gap fill, which is here at the bottom of the order block and here, the total. All right, so with a tight entry right here, this is over 1,000-point move, which is insane. And you can easily get something like this, 10 to 1, 11 to 1, something like that. AUDUSD. I don't have anything marked out for AUDUSD, but this was my Friday trade, and then gold. So we had a structure point trap sellers 2 weeks ago. We broke aggressively through it. We've created that liquidity manipulation and started to aggressively push back up and tested this area. Now we've been running for a while. I would be interested in taking this trade if it mitigates this area right here and starts to push through this channel. If it pushes through this channel and corrects aggressively, I will take this so that until it mitigates this. If it falls through that and I was wrong, the next section I will be looking at is a retest of where the previous trap sellers are, so somewhere in this area. And that is gold upcoming for this week. Now I want to show you how I'm doing this, and this is my Friday trade. I'll show you on this chart. So, again, aggressive falling. Where was the generation point? Here, right? TP3 generation point here. It was already filled, which is bad news for us. However, it continued down, held, probably around 8:30 a.m. market manipulation, 8:30 exactly. So this is the low. It's held it twice, pulled down, and aggressively corrected. So for me, I was looking for a retest of somewhere in this structure or potentially somewhere in this candle. And during London session, we got it. So Tokyo, what it will usually do in confirmations of this is you'll see that Tokyo has slowly struggled to get it up into the profit target area. And then right around London time, it starts to fail. So London is between 01 and 03, pre-London session, 0103 EST, New York time. I'm in Bali, so it's between 1 and 3 p.m. for me. So I come back from the gym and I see that it's failing. I anticipate it's going to fail until we go back to this part. And I want to see London really step up, rip a level, and then correct. So these are my trades on Friday, and I had a lot of losses. I had a break even, I had a full loss, I had a break even, or actually I think I made some money on this one. I had a full loss, I had a full loss here, full loss here, full loss here, full loss here, and a win here. So I ended up being down about 2% on the day, anticipating this thing to do and just taking like scalps, anticipating that it's going to continue in a trend and it's just failing. But that's fine because the majority of my trades I'm able to mitigate my position, or I was taking very small positions because this isn't really like my time for an entry. I'm waiting for the big rip. And this is what I'm looking for, and this is how I identify it. And this is exactly what I'm looking for to happen. Same structure and everything that's happening this upcoming week with the other ones that I showed you. But as it starts to pull down, we want to find a way that we can identify this. So first we have an aggressive dump and an aggressive correction with no follow through. So this is a structure point that we're going to struggle with. It continues down, continues down. Okay, now it's ranging. I anticipate it might hold this and push higher, and it breaks through it. When I see something break through it, I want to see it aggressively correct. So I want to see red, 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 green, 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 green. On those V-shaped corrections, they really take off, and they'll retest and break the majority of things that have been, the majority of supply zones that have already been put in. So as we break down here, red, 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 a very big green candle, we get a pullback and a push, and it just immediately fails. But when that happens to me, I usually get excited because when you get a V shape like this and it puts in structure and then fails, that tends to be a shoulder. So I'm now looking for a more aggressive sell-off and a more aggressive correction to create that head pattern. And then I can add throughout that trade, and then we get it. So we get the aggressive correction, drop, 2 small bars and a third push bar, right? It closes like this, and as it's pushing back up here, I enter 3 positions, and now I'm anticipating that it's going to come and it's going to interact with this shoulder pattern. And I hope that it pretty much immediately comes up and taps the top of this area. On a pullback, I want to add, right? Because this is the true structure. This was just a market footprint. So we have the true structure point right here, right? This is just the manipulation. Well, I see the manipulation, I take a small stab at it, and then I wait to go all in. So I take 3 positions here, it immediately comes up and interacts with the top of the neckline. As it pulls back into this is the discount on the structure, I add aggressively here, right? And then it takes a while to work out. It breaks, comes back up, it tries again, and now I'm anticipating that it's probably gonna break this, but it's not gonna break this doji candle right here. These dojis are micro pullbacks, and on aggressive pushes, the dojis tend to be strong support. So my stops all go to the bottom of this doji at this point. So my trade is looking like this. For my entry, and my other entries are here, so I would take a loss on them. Right? As I see it breaks this and it walks back up, this is the U-shaped correction that I really like to talk about. You get a dump and 3 consecutively higher body closes. You get 1 pullback and a breakout, right? So this one was a very long pullback, but it didn't break this low. As it pushed up and closed here, I moved all my stops to this point. So no matter what, I wasn't going to lose money. And my target was a full gap fill all the way back to what Tokyo could not do, which was break the 500 mark and continue back into this channel and hit 67557. As it broke this high here and it was failing, I closed some of my position here because I was already up about 3%. As it dumped and then came in here, I was looking at it and I see that it started to fall off again. And right around here, I'm starting to realize that if this just simmers out for a long time and market opens with New York at 8:30, you might get an aggressive dump right back to my stop, and then it takes off without me. But I don't want to risk losing the money, so I just close the position because I don't want to trade New York. And it ends up coming all the way down pre-market, holding and aggressively pushing from my initial entry area. And this would have been a great re-entry test. So this is something that I would be looking for if I was trading New York. Aggressive V and a correction, or aggressive sell-off and a correction. Again, shoulder, we get modeling along this area. Aggressive sell-off, 3 green bars, right? 3 white knights, a pullback and a continuation. You could add anywhere in here and keep your stop here. And then what happens is we get an aggressive sell-off. And again, it happens again. This is the same thing I keep talking about. We get generation point 1, right? extremely aggressive breakout, and it fills below. So we got 0.1, 0.2, 0.3. Now we enter when we get a confirmation, and our target is a mitigation of 0.2, right? 0.1, breakout, fails, target is now the top. And what does it do? Happens all the time. It comes down, breaks the low, comes right back into our initial structure point, which is why when I see these V's and I have the 1, 2, 3 candles, that second candle, fair value gap, whatever you want to call it, tends to be an amazing structural point. As it comes down, we get an aggressive rip, pull. As it breaks the structure higher, you could trade a pullback and a retest, or you could be a little risky and you could be trading these bounces, but there's a lot of volatility because it's pre-market in New York. But New York does take it out, takes out the high, mitigates it, comes back in, tests it like I'm looking for to happen this following week with the other pairs, and it continues. So as we come up and mitigate this, we get a pullback out of a channel, right? Here's the channel trend line, comes up, mitigates the high, drops out, puts in structure, and takes off. And then what happens? We end up interacting with that target I had all day long, but I had closed out, unfortunately, mostly here. But my trade ended up, the winner trade that I ended up taking. So I was down about 1.7% on the day. In that trade I made, I won maybe 2.5%. So I ended up being up on the day. Even though it didn't hit the area I wanted to, I wasn't willing to sit through New York market manipulation. So this trade ended up being, I'd say, an average of almost a 20 to 1 risk to reward. But that's why I'm staying profitable, is because I'm always looking for a reason to mitigate my trades. Okay, so if I have 30% of my trades are full losses and 30% of my trades are full wins, that means that 40% of my trades, I'm losing somewhere between 0.5 and 0.1%. So my goal is not to win more trades, because the winners that I have are greatly outweighing my losers. My goal is to mitigate my losses as much as possible. So instead of losing 30% of my trades having a full loss, my goal for this week is to lose 20%. Have 20% of my trades be full losses, so that the other 40, 50, 60% of my trades are at least break even or very small losses. And all I have to do is be patient and wait for a good setup like this, where you have a structure point, it pulls back into previous structure, and then it restarts an uptrend, right? So again, same thing, correction, push. Right? We get a market manipulation, 1, 2, 3, target is number 2, right? And this is going on in all of these other pairs, right? Generation point is here, bullish breakout, fails below it, target is here, right? This was a really weird rip, but still, 1, 2, because it's green, closed green, it's bullish. 1, 2, 3, market mitigates the high. Right? Drop, right? It fails. But what we didn't have here was an aggressive push. If this had generated here, 1, 2, 3, I would look for a market fill, but it didn't happen. GBPJPY. It happened recently. Where was it? Right? Generation point 1, 2, 3. We look for a low. Okay, here we break the high on a pullback into structure. Again, this is the primary structure point. We wait. Drops shoulder, head, enter somewhere in the structure, pulls back here. This is a discount of the true structure, right? This is just a market footprint. You enter here on this green candle retest, buy here, stop here. Takes a while, but what does it do? It comes up and it mitigates, right? Takes a while, pulls back, comes back down, pulls into this, and this just happens to be a retest structure right here, right? And this is an aggressive buy candle. Pulls down into this area, you buy, stop below here, pulls up, dumps, you add, stop below here, comes up, breaks this bullish breakout, all stops to break even for the mitigation of the initial sell-off, which is here. And even though it still hasn't gotten there, you can see that it's gotten pretty damn close. And it's just a matter of time. And because this level needs to be mitigated, I keep targeting this. On any pullback, you can join the trade, looking for targeting this, and just find a way to move your stop up. So you're taking minimal risk, and you're mitigating your losses as much as possible. Anyways, long-winded video. Thank you so much. And I will see you guys next time.